Hello, friends and fellow adventurers. We are here again to play and continue the Sins of Fless. Now, after watching my last video, I realized that the intro and the recapping took up almost 5 minutes. That's way too long. So, I'm going to do quick recaps. If this is your first video you're watching, maybe go back and check the others out if you want more information on the events leading up to now, which at this point in the series is really honestly not that much. But this is Fless, our hobgoblin rogue. She is our main protagonist. She is a worshipper of Lamashtu, the mother of monsters. Now, Fless, we decided, is traveling to the Shining Kingdom from Cheliax. Specifically, she is traveling to a city called Swanvane, just a little north of the western side of the Five Kings Mountains. She stopped on our second episode, she stopped the night before, had a nice little sleep, let her horse rest, and then she woke up to 3 snakes attacking her. She was victorious, took a little bit of damage, which she still has not yet healed to this point in time. Then she traveled in the early morning, just before sunrise, to the city. She decided that she wanted to enter the city stealthily, so she did not enter the original gate she walked up to. It was guarded by a guard. She went to another gate, which she happened to hit in between guard change, so she made her way in easily. She did not know exactly where she was going. She knew she was here to stop the local Shelenites, which worshippers of the goddess Shelyn, in some manner. She knew that she was looking for a local cult of Lamashtans, and on her way to a tavern or somewhere, just while she was searching the city, she passed by a half-elf man named York. They stopped in the street. They recognized each other. She gave a brief explanation of why she was here. He said to her, "Follow me." He took her to a Pharasman church, where he led her down into a secret hatch in the back and down a long brick hallway into a secret room. And in this secret room was, of course, a statue to Lamashtu, but also there were cages of people locked up, Shelenites, prisoners. Now, where I stopped last time, I stopped before giving my, my kind of sign off, saying goodbye and everything, and that is because I actually stopped it before I had Fless kill the prisoner, but that's where I stopped right after that. I said, "Oh, blah blah blah, goodbye, thanks for watching." But during editing and in between this session and that, I decided that killing off them it serves the story not at all. It doesn't. And there was no real reason for it. I'm trying to play this darker, and I was just going by the rolls that I had, but now we're keeping that same line. So as York kind of notioned to Fless, he said, "Well then, show us that you are truly here to deal with these Shelenites." Fless grinned as she walked towards the cage. Now, instead of killing the Shelenites, which, again, like I said, serves no purpose to the story whatsoever, and it's really kind of flat and boring, it's not even really dark. Instead, Fless, showing complete resolve in her faith, staring at this gnomish woman in the cage. Frightened the woman is, skinny from being malnourished. Who knows how long they've been locked up here. Fless approaches the cage, opens the barred gate, and leaps in like a feral beast onto this woman. she pulls her kukri out from her belt, and she begins carving. Not with the intent to kill, but with the intent to maim, with the intent to scar, to brand her with cuts along her face, along her arms. She takes off a small chunk. She doesn't bleed the woman out. This isn't torturous. This is disfigurement. This is taking this Shelynite woman who prided herself in her beauty and the beauty of other things, and she is taking that beauty away and twisting it in the way that a true Lamashtan would. And during this display of, let's call it, faith for her mother, Lamashtu, this sends Fless into a bit of a blood frenzy, if you would. After she finishes with this gnomish woman, still alive, but of course bleeding and scared, Fless leaves that cage. And she even forgets, she's in such a blood rage, she doesn't realize that she left the cage door open, and York, he's admiring this, but at the same time he's kind of noticing that she may not be fully in control, as this feral hobgoblin woman, let me click through these, just kind of, oh, I thought I had one more, doesn't matter. As she goes to the next cage, and she just begins not dismembering. I think actually one of the cages. Now this gnomish woman, she kind of marked up her face, and she put some maybe some writings of Lamashtu, maybe like carved those into her arms. And then she went on to the next one, and I think she might have just grabbed the, let's say it was a man. I'll tell you what, let's draw our cards real quick. This, again, is slightly irrelevant of who it is or what it is, but it's just something I would like to flesh out real quick. So she reaches in the next cage. I'm going to cut this deck, draw the bottom card, and show it to you. Ooh, this is an elven man. She grabs the hand of the scared elven man, and she just pulls it to the bar, kind of like bringing his body like to the edge of the bars with force. As he kind of thumps against the bar, she kind of takes his arm underneath hers and locks it in, and she takes her kukri and she starts popping off 2 fingers and then 3 fingers, and then she lets it go, and then on to the next one. And she does this with all 4 members. She does something slightly different to each of them, and I don't think she's necessarily laughing. Wait, what is this music? This is pirate music. This is the music I use for my pirate board. What are you doing? You're not supposed to be on shuffle. Let's try that again. Anyway, back to the carnage at hand. So Fless, she finishes doing what she is here to do. And she's panting, and she is kind of coming to, more or less, realizing, she's kind of looking around, blinking. She kind of fumbles with her kukri a little bit and places it back in her belt. And York kind of, he's a little bit in awe, and also a little scared, maybe. You know, maybe he's not as demented or crazy as Fless is here. Because just because you're a worshiper of Lamashtu doesn't make you evil or crazy. It just means you see the beauty in flaws. So anyway, he's admiring and also cowering slightly as she kind of finishes her blood rage, and he closes the gate of the gnomish woman, who was just still too distraught and too in pain to even notice that the cage door had been opened. And he locks it back, and he looks at Fless and says, good job, Fless. I don't think he actually ever got her name. I assume they probably would have talked in the hallway as they were making their way through. So he's, good job, Fless. That was, I guess we could say admirable. I know the mother would be pleased, and these Shelonites will know that their beauty is fleeting. And now that you have proven yourself, I believe it is time to take you to meet the others in the clan. And Fless kind of gains her composure, and she kind of straightens out wipes a little bit of the blood off of her arm guards on her forearms. Yes. That would be great. And that was fun. If you ever need anything else like that, just let me know. That'll do for now. But trust me, we have plenty to deal with these Shelonites. The situation is pretty dire. But we will discuss that further as we get to the main quarters, the headquarters, you could say, for our little cult here locally. Alright, so after Fless's carnage and a little bit of, again, I want to play into her madness because she is a little bit more crazy than maybe a typical Lamashtan worshiper. So, and again, forgive me for my little wolf guy here on screen. I'm trying to remember to keep my head a little bit where it needs to be, because if I'm looking down at my keyboard or over at my dice, he kind of looks like he's not paying attention. Anyway, I digress. So let's get to rolling some dice. Let's get on a page. Okay. I meant to bring this map up while I was having that conversation. Alright, so session stopped in the prison chamber. Alright, let's move on to... let's make little bullet points here. Fless in a blood rage. Mutilated? Would that be the correct word? Mutilated sounds like she killed them. She... disfigured? Maybe? We'll just say that. Fless disfigured the 4 Shelynite prisoners. Alright, and then York agreed to take her to the cult headquarters. Whoops, I didn't mean to have that. Man, my typing skills are awful. I apologize. I didn't mean for that to be caps, but I don't really care right now for the sake of time in the video. So we'll just save that and minimize that. So now I have a question about York. Is York the leader of this local cult? And I think we'll say unlikely, just because, I mean, what are the chances that the first person she met was the leader? So unlikely gives us a 35% chance of a yes. 11! Look at that! Episode 5. Okay, if you remember last time, I rolled a bunch of doubles in a row. And there is 11, so and that is below our chaos factor, even though I'm playing all doubles as random events. So, yes, he is, in fact, the leader of this cult. And we have another random event. Now, this random event, let's just knock that out real quick. So, I'm gonna add that to my notes real quick. I just wish it would open as like a notepad thing. I know I could just open a notepad, but I try to keep all my information, everything consolidated into one software, so I'm not going all over the place. Anyway, York is the leader of this local cult. Cool. And then, I can minimize it while it's in edit mode. Okay, cool. Okay, I like that. Awesome. Good job, Roll20. So let's resolve that random event real quick. I'm going to get to my event focus page. There she is. Now, what is the focus of this random event? 14, which is a new NPC. That's kind of hitting the nail right on the head. We were already going to go meet a bunch of new NPCs, but that means that one of these other cult members are going to be someone of importance. That's kind of how I see this. Now, so with that in mind, since we are getting a new NPC, and during a random event in the Mythic system, you roll for the event focus, which is what we just did, and then you also roll on some of the meaning tables, if you find it necessary, which in this case I do, and which in most cases I do, to kind of get more information on what this event is. Now, the event is the new NPC, duh, I've said that 100 times now. So let's roll on the descriptor table to get a little sense of kind of maybe who this person is, what do they look like, whatever the dice tell us. So descriptor is a 96. Alright, timidly. And 33, another double. Man, doubles, they're supposed to be sort of rare, I guess, but I'm rolling them like they're not. 33 on the second table is flawless. Timidly flawless. And it's a new NPC. Timidly flawless. I honestly do not know what to make of that. Timidly flawless. Okay, I will keep that in mind as we go. Alright. Random event. New NPC. Timidly flawless? Alright, we don't know what that means, but we gotta do it. Alright, what's the hotkey for Control Shift Num 7? That's honestly pretty dumb, and it didn't even do whatever. Anyway, alright, random event, timidly flawless, new NPC. Let's go. Stop repeating yourself and continue the story. So, let's get us to this headquarters. Now, is the headquarters of this cult still down here, kind of where we currently are? You know, we followed the hallway underneath the church, and then we found this secret room just kind of off to the side. So is the headquarters also down here, maybe further down the hall? I'm thinking that that is very likely, so we'll roll that. Wow, a 95. No. That's almost an extreme no. Okay, so no, it is not down here. The hallway that we did follow down before the secret room just kind of ends. It's collapsed just maybe, you know, a couple dozen more feet down from where the secret room is. This tunnel was old. You know, the Lamashtans didn't build this necessarily. They found it and they reclaimed it for their own purposes. So York leads her back down the hallway and up the ladder and out of the Pharasman Church, which will take us to, let me just save that real quick in case I accidentally close it, which is likely. Okay, so let's go back to our city map here. So here where it says Lamashtan, I'm actually going to change that to prisoners. So that is where our prisoners are. Now, let's do some more rolling on meeting tables, because all I do is consult Mythic to figure everything out for me. And that's how I solo play. So, location. Let's find that real quick. Sorry for the dead space here. Where is that pesky location? Okay, so what? Ooh, you know what? Before, I tell you what, I had this idea while I was at work earlier, because yes, I think about my games while I'm at work, but I try not to think too much ahead as far as like plot, and just because the dice really tell the true story, so me thinking too much ahead is a waste of time, kind of like me explaining this to you guys. So I'm actually thinking, instead of rolling on a meetings table to find out more description on where we're going, I'm thinking that this headquarters is actually some type of business. That is, the business is like a front for the cult and their ongoings and stuff. So, for example, like a tavern, an inn. I know a lot of times those go hand in hand in fantasy settings, but they don't have to. Like blacksmith, a library, anything like that. So, with that in mind, let's roll on the locations table, but we're gonna try to connect that to some type of business here in the poor district. And actually, is it in the poor district? I'm going to say that is nearly certain. Is this location in the poor district? Nearly certain. Wow. Okay. 07 extreme yes. So let's roll on the location. 34. Familiar. Okay. And 65. Official. Ooh, official and familiar. Okay, official makes me think of some maybe kind of legal building, but not necessarily. Familiar, I was thinking, cliche, like I already said, an inn or a tavern, because that's very familiar to fantasy settings. But official doesn't really fit with the kind of tavern vibe. Okay, I gotta work on not overthinking things. Official and familiar and official. Tell you what, I am going to try to think about this for a second, because this is an important one. Okay, after much deliberation, probably way more than I needed to, I have an idea, I think. Okay, so I did actually recruit the help of Lyra for this one, because it really stumped me, and I feel like this is an important thing that needed to be figured out for this story. So familiar and official. I think that this could be... I have two options. One is a little less official, but they're both pretty similar. So one would be like a pawn shop, where that's the one that's loosely official, but it is familiar. A lot of people would go there, sell their things, get a little bit of money, especially here in the poor district. The other one being a kind of same branch off of that would be an appraisal shop. So somewhere that, because I'm sure a lot of adventurers come through these parts, these areas. Anybody that kind of like delves into ruins nearby, or anybody, this whole setting is very revolving around adventuring. So those adventurers would need a place to appraise their values. Like, I found this chalice in the crypt of this lone king. Is it worth anything? And so they could take that and be like, yes, this is the finest craftsmanship of dwarves in the 37th century. Or no, this is printed in a factory and pumped out by the tens of thousands just a few years ago. That kind of thing. I kind of like that. I do like that. Thank you to Lyra for that suggestion. And I do also like the pawn shop one. That's kind of more what I came up with. It would make more sense as a business just because you're making money off of it that way. But since this is kind of just a front for the cult to kind of work underground, probably literally underneath the building, and it would draw less attention. There would be less kind of foot traffic of the regulars in and out. So I'll tell you, we'll go with an appraisal shop. I do like that. So appraisal shop. I don't think I spelled that right. I did not. Appraisal. We're gonna pretend that red line is not underneath that word. Fine, whatever, we'll spell it correctly. So, the headquarters of this cult is an appraisal shop. So, long story short, we're like 37 minutes into it. I don't know how much I'm gonna have to cut out of me just standing there thinking, but finally, we get to the point where York leads Fless out of the church and down some more roads. Let's say that this appraisal shop, I think it's going to be, we're going to say right in here, because now this bridge here is the main bridge that connects really it's the only bridge that connects the poor district, which is here on this side, to the market district, which is right here, which is where the vast majority of stores, blacksmiths, craftsmen, artisans, whatever, anything, brothels, whatever you find business-wise, this is basically where they are going to be consolidated. So now, yes, obviously we have a business on this side. There's probably a couple taverns sprinkled throughout here in the poor side. But regardless, the point I'm trying to make here is our appraisal shop is going to be just off of the bridge. That way we get those adventurers coming through that will pay to have their items appraised. Of course, that's not going to be for free to find out whether they have junk or a priceless relic. So let's just slap down a little yellow dot right there. And that is going to be our headquarters. Ha 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 ha. I'm thinking they kind of own this whole block right here. So the appraisal shop is kind of their main source of income, but they've kind of more or less claimed like the apartment buildings and the warehouse that's kind of on this same block here. So this is going to be our headquarters. 20, bold. And we'll just simply put HQ, baby. Right there she is. Okay, so we have an HQ, and we have our prisoners very far away, so you know that if worse comes to worse, maybe we can sever our ties and not be linked to those prisoners down there. But for now, they are safe. And York leads her down these winding roads, these narrow alleys, as dawn is, it has arrived, so the sun is barely up, the light is filtering over the Five King Mountains to the east. I'm pretty sure in this setting, the sun still rises in the east and sets in the west, and if I'm not mistaken, they even have one moon. They made it very relatable to Earth here, and that's fine, So the sun's coming up from the east, and York leads her up to the front of the shop. And the shop is in relatively good condition for being in the poor district. You can tell that they do make pretty decent money. The wood is very well crafted. The the paint on the outside that's kind of been applied to give it a weatherproofing. There's some gold, not actual gold, but like gold painted framing around the windows and the doors. It has a very official vibe to it, hence our meaning table rules. But the thing that makes it Lamashtan, the little cherry on top that people can recognize it, but not it's very subtle. There is one window boarded up on the second level, just above the main entrance here, and that just resembles the scar on a beautiful face. It's a beautiful, immaculate building, but it has one broken out window, and that is the essence of Lamashtu. And York holds the door open for Fless. Fless kind of hisses at the notion that this man gave her. Now, this guy's honestly kind of coming off as kind of a nice guy, you know? Again, because he's Lamashtan doesn't make him bad. So he just kind of smiles because he knew Fless was going to reject the offer of a door being held for her. And he strides inside and she follows. And as they get inside this room, it's very tight. It's the room itself isn't small, but there's a lot of clutter. There's a lot of relics in kind of like the main foyer here, and just a few feet inside the door, of course, is the main desk, which is kind of littered with papers and inkwells and quills, little lamps with ever-burning flames inside of them, one on each side of the table. Little knickknacks spread across the desk as well. On the sides of the room and kind of like in the display windows for the people in the streets to see are relics. Most of them are replicas, because obviously they're not just going to display a priceless relic in a thin pane glass window, especially in Poor District. It gets stolen immediately. They probably have reoccurring instances where people do steal the replicas anyway. Regardless, it's just to kind of display the types of things that they appraise here. Swords, goblets, stones, ancient stones, even large like skulls and skeletons, things of that nature can all be appraised here. And behind the desk, we see the person that is, what was it? Timid and flawless. Okay, see, now this can be, we can play this in now that we have a little bit more information. Timidly, I'm just going to use the base word timid. Now this person, somebody that would be good at this job, somebody that I feel like you would see at the front desk of an appraisal shop, would be somebody that seems kind of reclusive, introverted, and maybe a little bit timid. And flawless means they are flawless in what they do. You know, they have that little like eyepiece that jewelers have so they can closely inspect things, because they are flawless in the inspection and the details of that, and that's why they are good at appraisals. Now, this store may be a front, but it is official. Like, they are a legit appraisal shop, and this person specifically is good at what they do. So I've been talking for fucking forever here. I haven't rolled any dice. Anybody still watching, thank you very much. Just listening to me yap on about made up setting. Honestly, I'm having fun though. This is very fun exercise for my brain. But let's get to that person now. Let's roll on our roll 20. So again, I have a little NPC generator thing here that I click on it. It gives me a name, a race, and a gender, and also kind of their starting attitude. I added that a long time ago for in case my players ran into a random NPC, in the dungeon. Oh, they're either helpful or they're not, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, let's click it right now to see who we see behind. Okay, we see behind the desk here a female goblin. I know you can't see because my little guy's in the way. Here, let's see if I can move him real quick. Unlock him from, there we go. Okay, so we see a female goblin named Vane, Vane, and well, their starting attitude is helpful, which kind of makes sense, and also timid really fits with a goblin in my opinion. All right, I'll move a little Varger back there. There you go. Thanks, Varger, for displaying my emotions in a animated manner. Alright, so that's awesome. I'm going to throw that in my notes here. Again, sorry, you just got to watch me write notes and do this silly stuff. But we have, the official familiar, so timid and flawless, random NPC. Alright, so we have our random NPC. If I can get my fingers to do the correct thing, is a female goblin named, I already forgot, Vane, V-A-N-E. Named Vane. Perfect. And she is timid, and she is flawless in her pursuit of appraising the goods. Now this fits in perfectly because Fless is a runt boss. So if she tries to coerce poor little Vane here, not only is she timid and would probably give anyway, Fless would have a even greater chance at succeeding. So, all right, Vane sits at the front desk as York and Fless walk in. Okay, now I've gone on and on and on in this episode, so I'm going to stop it there. Again, we baby stepped our way. The only thing that happened was we left the prisoner chambers, we walked through the streets, and we entered the appraisal shop, and that somehow took me 45 minutes to deliver to you, or to myself, if anybody's even watching this. So I'm gonna stop it there and stop yapping, but thank you guys so much for listening, if you did, and I will catch you in the next episode where we will expand upon this appraisal shop that we just discovered. And catch you later. Goodbye, friends.